Why do rich people wash their plates themselves just to eat Iyabenji's food? What makes the madman laugh and call those eating Iyabenji's food crazy? What secret does he see that others are not seeing? Sit back, grab some popcorn, and let's find out in this amazing story of Iyabenji, the yummy food seller. Once upon a time, in a small market in Abeokuta, there lived a food vendor who was called Iyabenji. Iyabenji's food was the talk of the town. Her food booker, popularly known as Mama Put, stood in the middle of the bustling market, always surrounded by eager customers. From morning till night, people line up just to get a taste of her delicious meals. Some even travel from other villages, and fights would break out over who would be served first. No one could explain why her food was so irresistible. It wasn't just the poor who came for it. Rich men with big cars would leave their pride behind, wash their own plates, and wait in line like everyone else. One hot afternoon, as people scrambled for Iyabenji's food, a madman walked by, laughing loudly. He pointed at the customers. "You are all eating live snakes," he shouted, his voice loud enough to cut through the noise of the market. Everyone froze for a moment, staring at the madman. Then, just as quickly, they dismissed him, laughing. They called him crazy and waved him off. Snakes? In Iyabenji's food? Obviously, he is a madman, one man said, shaking his head as he picked up his own plate. The madman continued to laugh, dancing a little far from the stall. "Snakes, snakes, you are all eating snakes," he sang. But nobody listened to him. They thought he was just a madman, as usual. They didn't know that his words would soon turn their world upside down. Iyabenji stood behind the stall, smiling as she served another plate. Not far from Iyabenji's stall was another food vendor, Shade. Her small shop used to be full of customers too. She had once been the town's favorite, known for her mouth-watering jollof rice and fried meat. But ever since Iyabenji's food had become so popular, Shade's customers had all disappeared. Now she spent most of her days sitting alone, watching the crowd at Iyabenji's stall from a distance. It puzzled her. She and Iyabenji cooked the same type of food, used similar ingredients, and even sourced from the same market vendors. Yet, there was no comparison in the size of their crowds. How can she be so successful? Shade asked herself, wiping sweat from her forehead. What is it that she does differently? She had no answers. Iyabeji's rise to fame seemed almost unnatural. Even when Shade lowered her price, it made no difference. People still flocked to Iyabenji like they couldn't get enough of her food. As she sat there, lost in thought, the madman's words from the other day echoed in her mind. "You are all eating snakes." The madman had said it with so much conviction, but she quickly brushed it aside.
No, that's impossible.
She told herself, but something deep inside her wouldn't let it go. Shade wasn't the one to believe in magic or superstitions, but as the days passed, she couldn't shake the strange feeling that something was wrong. The way people acted around Iyabenji's food didn't seem normal. Some of them looked almost desperate, like they couldn't get enough of it. And why would rich men who actually dine in fancy restaurants humble themselves to eat from a roadside vendor, even washing their plates themselves? Something wasn't adding up. One evening, After a long day of selling nothing, Shade decided to walk past Iyabenji's stall again. She stood at a distance, watching the scene unfold. As usual, a crowd gathered, and there was Iyabenji, smiling sweetly as she dished out her food. She shook her head and turned to leave, but the madman's words kept echoing in her mind. Shade then decided that she needed answers. She couldn't just sit by and watch her own business crumble without knowing the truth. Her concern was that she was no longer making sales. The feeling of unease wouldn't leave Sade alone, no matter how hard she tried to focus on her own business. Her thoughts kept drifting back to Iyabenji and the strange behavior of her customers. She needed to understand what was going on. She needed help. That night, she packed a small bag and set out to visit a famous seer in a nearby village. Mama Kike was known for seeing things that others couldn't. She could look into people's lives and reveal hidden truths. People said she had the power to uncover secrets that were buried deep. It was late when Shade arrived at the small hut where Mama Kike lived. Shade knocked on the door, and after a moment, the door opened, and Mama Kike stood there at the door. "You've come to find out what you already suspect," she said. Shade nodded, unsure of how the seer already knew why she was there. She stepped aside. The air was filled with the smell of herbs and incense. "Iya Benji," Shade began, "there is something about her food. People are drawn to it in a way that is not normal. And there was a madman who said people are eating snakes." Mama Kike listened quietly. After a long pause, she spoke. "You are right. Iyabeji's food is not what it seems," she said. "It's tied to something diabolic, something hidden from the eyes of ordinary people. But you can discover the truth." Shade felt a mix of fear and determination as she sat in front of Mama Kike. She had come for answers, and now she was about to get them. But the truth seemed darker than she had imagined. "What do I do?" Shade asked. "How can I find out what is really going on?" Mama Kike looked at her with a serious eyes. "There is a way," she said, "but it will not be easy. If you want to know the truth, you must do exactly as I tell you." Shade leaned forward, listening carefully as the seer explained her plan. Mama Kike handed her a small packet wrapped in cloth. "Take this," she said. "Go to Iyabenji's store tomorrow. When no one is looking, sprinkle the content near her cooking pot. The truth will reveal itself, but you must be careful." Shade's hand shook as she took the packet. She knew she had to do this to save her own business. Her own business was falling apart, and she couldn't ignore the strange things happening at Iyabeji's store any longer. "Will I be safe?" she asked. Mama Kike nodded. "If you follow my instructions, you will see the truth without harm. But be ready for what you may find." Shade left the seer's hut with the packet in her hand. She was scared, but she was also determined. Tomorrow, she would go to Iyabenji's store and do what Mama Kike had told her. The next day, Shade woke up feeling nervous. She kept thinking about Mama Kike's words and the small packet hidden in her bag. She wasn't sure what would happen, but she had to find out the truth about Iyabenji. When she arrived at the market, everything seemed normal. People crowded at Iyabenji's stall. pushing and shouting to get served first. It was like nothing could stop them from eating her food. Shade watched from a distance. Her heart was pounding. She held the packet tightly in her hand, waiting for the right moment. After a while, she walked over to Iyabenji's stall. Good morning, oh Iyabenji, she said, forcing a smile. Iyabenji smiled back, not suspecting anything, as she scooped rice into a plate. Shade quietly pulled out the tied packet. No one was looking at her. Everyone was too busy waiting for their food. Shade quickly sprinkled the powder near the large cooking pot. As Mama Keke had instructed her, her hands trembled as she finished, but no one noticed. She stepped back and watched. Her eyes was fixed on the pot. For a moment, nothing happened. People continued eating, laughing, and chatting as everything was normal. But Shade knew something was about to change. Just then, the large pot began to shake slightly. Shade's heart skipped a beat. She kept her eyes on it, waiting for what would happen next. She didn't know if she was ready for the truth, but there was no turning back at this point. Whatever Iyabeji's secret was, it was about to be exposed. Suddenly, the large pot started shaking more violently. The noise caught everyone's attention. The crowd fell silent, their eyes fixed on the pot. Shade stood frozen, watching in disbelief. Without warning, the cover of the pot flew up and a huge snake popped out. It was super big and its shiny black skin sparkled in the sun, its tongue vibrating in and out, making a loud hiss sound as it wiggled back and forth. For a few seconds, no one moved. Then, all at once, the crowd began to scream. People dropped their plates, food spilling everywhere as they scrambled to get out of the stall. The once crowded stall now became a scene of panic. Women grabbed their children and ran, while men stumbled over each other, their faces filled with fear. The snake rose higher from the pot. It looked around with glowing eyes as if it was searching for something. Shade's heart pounded in her chest, but she couldn't take her eyes off the creature. Was this what the madman had warned them about? They had been eating from the same pot as a snake all along. Benji, standing behind her stall, looked calm at first, but as the snake fully emerged, she grabbed the pot's cover, trying to force it back inside. But it was too late. Everyone had seen the truth. The madman's words echoed in Shade's mind. You are all eating live snakes. The sight of the giant snake caused a pure chaos. People pushed and stumbled over each other as they tried to get away from the stall. Plates clattered to the ground, food scattered everywhere, but no one cared about the mess. The only thing on their mind was escaping from the terrifying creature that had emerged from Iyabenji's pot. Some people screamed, others stood frozen in fear. Even the nearby market sellers were packing up their things and running away. The noise was deafening with the shouts of snake, run, filling the air. Shade stayed where she was, her feet glued to the ground. Her plan had worked, but the reality of what she had uncovered left her shocked. She couldn't believe it. The giant snake had been hiding in plain sight, feeding off people's ignorance. The big snake made a hissing sound and slowly settled back into the pot. Everyone watched, scared and shocked. The snake slid back into the pot and vanished. The pot became quiet again, just like before. Sade's heart raced as she realized the full weight of the situation. The snake wasn't just an animal, it was something spiritual, something evil. And now everyone knew the truth. With the truth now uncovered, Benji's secret was out. The crowd had scattered, but some people stayed, whispering and pointing at her. The once busy stall, always full of life, was now quiet. Plates and spoons lay abandoned on the ground. As everyone was still looking at the pot, Benji quietly ran away. Nobody saw her leave. By the time people noticed she was gone, she had already disappeared. No one ever saw her again, and her food store was left empty, with all her pots and plates still there. The whole town was scared. The people talked about what happened, and many were too afraid to eat from food vendors anymore. They didn't know who they could trust. Some people even stopped buying food outside because they were scared other vendors might be like Benji. But slowly, Sade's stall began to have customers again. Her old customers started coming back because they trusted her. Even though business was getting better, people were still a little scared. They wanted to believe that Sade was different, but the fear of what had happened with Benji made them worried. Little by little, more people came back to buy her food, trying to forget the terrible thing that had happened. Hey everyone! Thank you for tuning in to Africa Tales by Chicks again today. I sincerely appreciate your support. Please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more interesting stories. Thank you once again for watching and see you in my next story.